How many people do you think President Biden let into our country illegally? Just give me a ballpark figure.
Sir, we don't know for certain, but we believe it could be upwards to 20 million people that are illegally in this country.
So that's like adding 10 Nebraskas to our country, isn't it?
That's correct.
Why do you think President Biden and my Democratic colleagues did that? Do you think they believe in open borders?
I think they believed in open borders and letting people come into this country that would affect our society and criminals. Those other countries emptying out the worst of the worst, their mental institutions, their prisons came in here and jeopardized, and known terrorists.
Well, only one or two circumstances are possible, it seems to me. Either President Biden and the Democrats who supported him believe in open borders, or the people that President Biden put in charge of securing the border you wouldn't trust to run a snowball stand, right?
That's correct.
So nobody is that incompetent. So it has to be, they just believe in open borders, do they not?
Yes, because I know the people who were securing the border and they weren't allowed to do their job.
Do you think they believe that vetting people at the border is racist?
Yes, I do. I think by the way they allowed people in and granted them immediate parole status.
Do you think that President Biden and some of my Democratic colleagues, I don't want to paint with too broad a brush, Madam Secretary, thought of these foreign nationals in our country illegally as potential new voters?
I do, sir.
Okay. If you're an ordinary American and you oppose illegal immigration, but you support legal immigration, does that make you a racist?
No, sir. No, sir, not at all. It just means that you believe there should be a rule of law, and that's what America was built on.
And that's what you've been enforcing, right?
Exactly. We have been following the Constitution and the rule of law in this country.
And I want to be sure I understand, because there's been a lot of confusing testimony here. You've secured the border, have you not?
This administration has, yes, sir.
And some of my colleagues are upset with you.
Yes, sir.
And they say you did it wrong.
Yes, sir.
And do you agree with me that what they're really upset about is that you did it at all?
Yes, sir.
Quick question. First, President Trump has talked about potentially suspending habeas corpus to take care of the illegal immigration problem. When could we see that happen, do you think?
Well, the Constitution is clear, and that, of course, is the supreme law of the land, that the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus can be suspended in a time of invasion. So I would say that's an option we're actively looking at. Look, a lot of it depends on whether the courts do the right thing or not. At the end of the day, Congress passed a body of law known as the Immigration and Nationality Act, which stripped Article III courts, that's the judicial branch, of jurisdiction over immigration cases. So Congress actually passed, it's called jurisdiction stripping legislation. It passed a number of laws that say that the Article III courts aren't even allowed to be involved in immigration cases. Many of you probably don't know this. I'll give you a good example. Are you familiar with the term temporary protected status, or TPS, right? So by statute, the court's stripped of jurisdiction from ruling a presidential determination or a secretarial determination on TPS when the Secretary of Homeland Security makes that determination. So when Secretary Noem terminated TPS for the illegals that Biden flew into the country, when courts stepped in, they were violating explicit language that Congress had enacted, saying they have no jurisdiction. So it's not just the courts aren't just at war with the executive branch. The courts are at war, these radical rogue judges, with the legislative branch as well, too. So all of that.
Habeas corpus is Latin for provide the body, show the body. And what that means basically is when someone is in custody, you can bring that person before the court. You have a right to go before a court and make the case, I'm not the right person, I shouldn't be incarcerated. You can challenge your unlawful detention. This is a right that is not only enshrined in the Constitution, but goes back to the Magna Carta. For hundreds and hundreds of years, in order to challenge the authority of the king in Britain, you had this right to go before a magistrate. It was considered one of the most important rights enshrined in British law, and it is as well in American law, in our Constitution, and by statute. So there's Miller threatening to suspend it. Now, are you allowed to suspend the writ of habeas corpus?
Trump administration, Stephen Miller, is talking about suspending habeas corpus. And that's a right that allows somebody to petition a court to go in front of a judge and argue that they're being illegally detained. If they do away with that, they can start deporting people or indefinitely imprisoning people, U.S. citizens, on trumped-up charges.
Can you answer as to whether you have reached out to your counterpart in El Salvador to facilitate Mr. Abrego Garcia's release?
Abrego Garcia is a citizen of El Salvador.
Can you answer as to whether you have reached out to your counterpart in El Salvador to facilitate Mr. Abrego Garcia's release?
Abrego Garcia is a citizen of El Salvador and should never have been in this country and will not be coming back to this country.
Are you or DHS doing anything to comply with the 9-0 Supreme Court order to facilitate his return to the United States? Just yes or no.
This administration is following all federal court orders. Your advocacy for a known terrorist is alarming to me.
Madam Secretary.
It's alarming to me because he's a human smuggler.
Madam Secretary, I'm going to have to reclaim
and a terrorist, and he's not a U.S. citizen. He's a citizen of El Salvador, and he's home. If he were to come back
Madam
here,
Secretary,
we would take him immediately
all right.
back.
Can you answer as to whether you have reached out?
To a congresswoman like that, and you gotta put your hands on me, you will pay. You guys are creating this. And this harassment, you know that's wrong.